Welcome to the 2024 District Conference. I am your MC, Peter Salazar. With me today is your District Conference Chair, Ashley Coleman. How you doing, Ashley?
Doing well, Spy Master, but we must follow protocol.
You're right. Bartender, martini. And bartender, shaken, not stirred.
From the office of the district director.
Ashley, you need this more than I do.
Indeed, I did need that. Thank you so much, Spy Master. But what I meant was, we need to read the recording statement.
If you
By
must.
attending this mission event, you agree to the privacy policy of Toastmasters International as well as the unassociated remote hosting service. Some of your personal information, such as name, image, and any shared messages may be shared with other meeting participants and will be recorded by Toastmasters International, who may use the recording in the future as it sees fit. Your remote attendance hereby discharges Toastmasters International from all claims, demands, rights, promises, damages, and liabilities arising out of or in connection with the use or distribution of said video recordings, including but not limited to any claims for invasion of privacy, appropriation of likeness, or defamation. This mission is being recorded and will be used for promotional purposes, distributed to speakers, and displayed in its entirety and edited versions on public media platforms.
Well said. Fellow Toastmasters, I don't know why I have to say this, but we have to go over some housekeeping rules. Number one, if you must join the restroom, if you must use the restroom, we will not join you. Meaning, if you go to the restroom, please turn off your mic and your camera. We do not want to hear or see anything. In case of an emergency, we can't help you. Please make sure your spouse is available to help you out, or at least have a dog who knows how to bark. Someone is in trouble. What do we have next?
Well, congratulations are in order, operatives, as your testing has finally come to an end. We hope you have been enjoying your vacation over the last few weeks, as you will be working very hard now that you have chosen to join us for the Double O Toast Conference mission. Spy Master, will you please review the order of operations?
Will do. I cannot see it here. So we are going to go off script. Fellow Toastmasters, today we have 4 events. Coming up next is a keynote. After that, we have a second keynote, followed by two roundtables. And then after that, we'll conclude the evening with a special presentation from the trio before handing it over until tomorrow morning. Ashley, do you want to thank the committee?
I sure do. Thank you so much, Spy Master, as well for that shaken, not stirred martini. I have a hearty appreciation for my conference committee, my top operatives of the district who helped me get this mission possible. Spy Master.
I know a lot of you like to take pictures at home of yourself watching us and making fun of us. And when you do, please do so and post them to social media. Join us on Facebook, Instagram, or whatever you use. Make sure you use the hashtag Double O Toast or Double O Toast D3. Do we have a raffle or any way to help people get involved and make money?
Great point. You can also serve in the mission by purchasing a raffle ticket. As you noted in our intro video, we have trips in our raffle and you don't need to be present to win. Feel free to use that link to Ticketly to purchase your raffle tickets tonight. Again, you don't need to be present to play. Go ahead and do that. Click that link. Thank you so much, operatives. Spy Master.
Fellow Toastmasters, I just went into the room. There are a lot of prizes, and I hope to win most of them. But in case I don't, I hope that some of my friends out there do. And I see a lot of you online. And I know that as a Toastmaster, I appreciate feedback. The conference team appreciates feedback. Even the district director appreciates feedback. I just hope that you actually take time at the end of the conference to give us feedback on the forms that will be available to you in your secret website or web link. What do we have next? Next is, what do we see online? Do you have any dignitaries online or any special people online that we could look at who are on camera, sharing their screens? Nobody, it's just me? Well, that's sad. I think I see Betty Covington out there. A couple of people, our very own accredited speaker. I see Martha Brock Lethbridge. I see a lot of people out there. Turn on your camera so we can see you. Turn on your camera so your fellow Toastmasters can see you. And again, say it with me, hashtag #00Toast D3 or hashtag #00Toast. Post on social media that you're online and let us all know that you're having fun. Tonight, we are online only. Tomorrow, we are in person. Let's go over tomorrow's agenda. Doors open at what time? 8 a.m. Not 7:59, not 8:01, 8 a.m. I heard somewhere that Toastmasters are punctual. I don't know if that's true or not. Rumor has it, I'm not punctual, but I don't. Ashley expects all of you to be punctual tomorrow. Remember, doors open at 8 a.m. After that, we will have a keynote from Carrie Conley. Vision is victory. Today is your someday. After that, we're going to promote the raffle again and again and again because we want you to win. And we need to fund the conference. We will have some more roundtable discussions and then another roundtable discussion. And then again, more raffle, maybe some prizes and some goodies in between. You never know. It is a conference. Can you scroll down? Oh, wait. At 11:30, we may have to clear the room so that the crew can come in here and set up for your lunch. After that, we will hand it off to the district director for the Hall of Fame lunch. If you earned any pin this year, you want to be present so you can collect your pin. I don't know if this is true or not, but I heard you have to be present to collect your pin. I wouldn't chance it. I would be here. What do we got going on after that? We have a very, very special surprise for you. It's not a surprise. We know what's coming. It's a Communication and Leadership Award. And that is given to somebody as a non-Toastmaster in the community who has done a lot of great things with communication. Be on your seats for that. We will have the educational awards, some more mission check-ins, and then we will close the Hall of Fame. Around 1 o'clock, we will have to take a recess and clear it for everybody. And it'll be your last chance to purchase tickets before we get to the main events. Do you guys ever hear the music they play before the Super Bowl or before a big basketball game? That's going to be the environment tomorrow when we have 5 of the best, 6 of the best, 7 of the best, 8 of the best, 6 of the best Toastmasters competing in the evaluation contest. And then after that, we have 6 of the best of the best of the best competing in the international contest. I hope that you can attend, you can join us, and I hope you know some of the competitors there, and you can see what a Toastmaster can achieve if they only try. Fellow Toastmasters, that is the agenda. Do we have any questions from the audience? Oh, that's right. I can't hear you. I think it is almost time for our first keynote. No? It is. I am looking online and I see Colleen McNeese all the way from California or Texas, Wafa Owen. I see a lot of you on there. I see some people that are looking pretty dapper wearing a tuxedo. I see some people from Havasu. I see people from the West Valley, the East Valley. I see a lot of people on there, even from the North Valley. Do we have anyone from the South? Oh, yeah, there we go. People from the South are joining us. Speaking of, the moment has come, fellow Toastmasters. Coming from the very, very South, our keynote speaker is the head of people operations at Blue Creative Agency, a creative studio focused on social media and public relations. In her role, she optimizes human resource processes for onboarding, offboarding, performance management, career development, feedback, and coaching. She also designs and coordinates team building and integration activities. Sounds like a Toastmaster. She majored in communications with a minor in advertising from the University of Nuevo León and earned a master's degree in human talent development from the University Regiomontana, both in Monterrey, Mexico. During the pandemic, she began training in resilient thanatology and thanatherapy, enabling her to provide support for individuals navigating through the grief process. She finished her training in 2023. She is a Toastmaster. She began her career as a Toastmaster in 2005. Back then, just like you, she began serving in club officer roles and district leadership when called upon to do so. This was only possible because of both the encouragement and support of her fellow Toastmasters. Since then, she has held several high-profile leadership positions within Toastmasters, including our region advisor and lead Spanish reviewer. Today, she is a member of the Toastmasters International Board of Directors, representing our region, Region 3. She is a working ambassador for the organization who works to support and guide leaders like you. Presenting, find your place in the leadership legacy. Please help me welcome our International Director, Distinguished Toastmaster, Violeta Rios.
District 3, thank you for embracing the mission of attending this top secret event. It is amazing to be back after so long. District 3 holds a very special place in my heart. It is the home of people I love. And I think the first thing I noticed when I arrived last night was precisely a familiar face that welcomed me home. Today, precisely because of that feeling of home, I feel the strong need to talk about where we stand within Toastmasters. We talk about legacies, about building them, about being a part of them. But I think it's the right time to empower those of us that have been in leadership positions. And it doesn't mean exclusively just in district, but anywhere. How we can continue building these branches of leadership. The world needs leaders, and the purpose of a leader is to create more leaders. You might be wondering why that leader selection. Well, let's not be controversial. Thank you. Some of these leaders we admire, some of these leaders we aspire to be in the near future. They come from very different backgrounds, but they have one purpose: to guide, to lead, and honoring their own values, whichever they may be. The world needs more and well-prepared leaders. It's not just about raising your hand. Where do we need these leaders? We need them at work. We need them in our community. We need them in our family. We need them in teams. And yes, we need them in Toastmasters. You might be wondering, but who is a leader in the family? Well, it's not just an authority figure. Sometimes an adult or even the eldest of the children embrace that leadership role. It's someone they look up to, whether it's for mischief or to prepare Mother's Day gift. At work, is it our managers who can rally the troops and to organize that surprise Christmas party or that surprise for someone? It's not usually about the title. It's usually about the person that can call to action. In your community, it's not just within Toastmasters. The church needs also volunteers and people who work in your neighborhood community. Someone that can call one of the electric companies to say, hey, we ran out of electricity, nobody's here. Who's calling? Nobody reported it. And that is something that happens very often in my house or the street I live in. The power goes out. My mother texts me and I'm at work and she's like, the power went out. Great. What can I do about it? Like, did you call with the electric company? No. So I call 5 hours later and there are more than 30 houses on my block with the same problem. But nobody took the initiative. There is no organized leadership within my block, which is very unfortunate. And in teams, sometimes there is the moral leader of the team and the one that has the position of being the team leader. And it's really challenging when these two positions do not belong to the same person. But they will listen to either the most respected individual or the highest ranking individual. And last but not least, Toastmasters. Every day, every year, we need more area directors, more division directors, more people that are willing to embrace the challenge in the trio. But you know what? Let's go even further down in our organization. We need club presidents. We need people that are willing to be the vice president of education. We need people that are willing to be the club secretary. So our strong, healthy clubs need leaders. The leader is in constant preparation. And we all have different preferences. My preferred method is reading. But I also enjoy podcasts. So you could find wonderful books, trainings, additional certifications, documentaries, podcasts, and of course, my favorite source of inspiration, mentors. And you don't have to limit yourself to just one source of preparation. It's not about just being a specialist in one area. You see, a long time ago, when my mother was single, she used to work for a funeral home. And when she married and we came along, for us, it was quite common to go to her old workplace. You know, the girls got together. And one day I asked a couple of questions regarding the business. And that's where she noticed that I had peculiar interests. When the pandemic came around, it was heartbreaking to see how many people we lost. I was already working in HR. And time and time again, I was authorizing time off because our people were going either to go back home and see relatives or unfortunately attend funerals. And what did I learn here? There was a market opportunity for me to grow. As an HR manager, how would I comfort these people? But it's not just when someone ends their period in this world. We also end periods when we end our program here in Toastmasters, when we finish a project. That's where I decided to get involved into grief therapy or thaumatology. And a lot of people end up looking it up when I explain what I do in that line of business. And it's actually just helping people close the cycle and find a way to move on. You see, we close cycles every day. But when you ask, not everyone has embraced this challenge. So if one day you bump into a certification, a masterclass, a book, or even a podcast on a topic that no one is familiar with, but you are interested in, go for it. Maybe one day you will be the leading opinion of that line of business. The leader has self-awareness. You have to know who you are. And it's not just knowing your bio and your stats, like, oh, well, this is me, and this is what I studied, and this is what I do. No, 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 no. We're talking about your strengths and also our weaknesses. And it's really challenging when you try to admit your weaknesses. I struggle to admit openly that I'm dyslexic. But if you hang around me and you see me under deep stress, you see in full action what it can do to me. As a talent manager, I always encourage people to focus on the strength that will make you a specialist, but most of all, it can help you shine. However, you have to learn how to control your weaknesses. You will never, ever be able to hide them, but you can work on them. And I think a leader shows their strength and their self-awareness when they know which is their area of opportunity and they continue to work on it. That constant improvement also inspires those that follow to continue working on themselves. Last but not least, self-confidence. It is always stressing to be in a strange situation, but we need to learn to take that stress and turn it into adrenaline so we could get excited and get the task done. We have to learn how to manage time. We plan, we organize, and I heard someone say one day, and then all hell breaks loose. No, no, no. We need to plan. And we need to plan for plan A, B, C, D, and the alphabet has 26 letters. So you have opportunities to know and keep everything under control if one factor does not go the way you want it to. But a day only has 24 hours. We have only 2 hands, 2 eyes, 1 mouth. We have to talk our priorities. There will be things that are important. There will be things that are urgent. But not all the time, they will find the happy medium. And we need to find a way to keep that balance. We have to be aware of our limitations. And have you ever found yourself in a position where you need to get something done, or you would like to get something done, but it is not cost effective, it is not timely, it is unfortunately not possible. And when you try to understand that not everything is possible, when you want to make everything possible, is when you understand your limitations. One of those, the powerful one, is when you want to get everything done, you want to do it yourself. And the biggest challenge for many leaders is to learn to properly delegate. Yes, we need to learn that lesson quickly. We need to empower our people and give them that ability to do things because you trust them. And because I trust you, I know you will be able to do things to the best of your ability. And one of the biggest lessons I learned was my responsibility ends here, and now it is yours. Last but not least, the last couple of years, and I don't want to wrap it around until the last decade, many have glorified multitasking. The challenge or the reality of multitasking is when you're trying to be everywhere and do everything, you don't do anything and you're not anywhere. So you have to give everything its own time. Because of, once again, you cannot pour from an empty pitcher. You have to take your time, relax, recuperate. Things will not go as expected sometimes. And it is something that we have to be okay with. When you strive for perfection, you want everything to happen the way you dreamt about it, but plans fail. Not everything is perfect. You can't control everything or everyone. And there is learning in that. There is learning in understanding that the vision you had will not always be executed. And I speak at this moment to those of you that are preparing to compete in the contests. Though I've never found myself in the position saying, I want to participate in a contest, I have helped prepare contestants. And one of the most important lessons I learned from one of my mentors were, there will be 3 scenarios or 3 speeches that will always coexist, but never on the same timeline. There is the speech that you plan or the event that you plan. There's what actually happened, the speech you actually gave, or the event that actually happened. And then the speech or the event that you would have prepared. And they happen one after another. Because after something happens, oh, I should have done this, I should have done that. And those should haves and those scenarios should not taint the real experience that you're going through. And there is a law of maturity in accepting that not everything will be perfect. So on your journey, when you go out and become this leader, if you're chosen as one, or when you are preparing as one, you have to go out there and find mentors. And there's an article I read the other day, and I found really interesting, and I had to do a little bit of reflecting. Does one go out and find mentors, or do mentors find you? And I put myself to that test. And as much as I thought I had found them and I had chosen them, it wasn't like that at all. They found me. We were precisely at the right place in the right time. But when one is becoming a mentor, believe it or not, they see or we see something in that other individual. And we hope and aspire that they gain all the information and knowledge from us and can take it a little bit further. Yeah. So what does one have to do to find these mentors? Well, you have to become the unicorn. What is the unicorn? Become the ideal mentee. When we talk about children when they're learning, we say they're sponges. But how can you be that ideal mentee, or that person that is flexible and willing to be mentored? Well, there's one thing, you have to be willing, of course, you have to be in the right place at the right time. But you cannot take for granted the lessons that you have been given. And I think that is the most powerful thing, because people spend their time and their attention in you. Not just for you to run off and do whatever you would like. There is a responsibility in accepting this advice that came as a gift. And now what we do with that gift is either we keep it and hold it, or continue passing it on. When we go out there in the world and we seek mentors, there are 4 pillars or 4 strengths that we should find to or seek to strengthen and reinforce. And I will speak with names today. I learned leadership flexibility from Rose Swearingen. Rose taught me that there will be a day that you will be in front of the stage, and there will be a day when you'll be in the back of the room. And both places are perfectly fine. You just have to understand that they have a certain date. Strategic and critical thinking was a gift given to me by Juan Carlos Camacho. Juan Carlos was Lieutenant Governor of Education and Marketing, and I was an area director. And I fell in love with something that every person that I talked to in a leadership position, I try to get engaged with. The dashboard. Juan Carlos taught me how to make magic with that dashboard, find trends, but most of all, keep track of the only thing that we have measurable, which is performance. Operational agility, Rodolfo Catalan. And I will never forget Rodolfo when he put his hand on my back and he said, patience. You see, the Violeta that existed 10 years ago did not have patience. I wanted to get things resolved at the moment. Today and now is the right time to fix things. But it's not usually that way. You sometimes have to wait until the right moment. And I learned the right moment through them. Communication adaptability. Ooh, the biggest lesson from Carlos Serrano. Carlos was my very first mentor. And he not only taught me how to adapt my communication style. I had to speak differently to the past division leaders. He was my first mentor in division service, but also how to encourage the new generation of leaders. Because my division back in the day, we had no leaders. But he also gave me the most powerful lesson, and the one I tell my mentees. There will be a day where I cannot walk beside you any longer. And the day I let you go is the day that you will find someone else that you can follow. So as mentors, we have limitations. And as mentees, we need to understand that we can't hold on to that unless we want to stay there and not move on further. So how many mentors do you need? When I count them all, I think I'm going on 6 or 7. You need the mentor that is the master of the craft. Those that will teach you the hard skills or the soft skills that you need. You need the mentor that will be the champion of your cause. The people that will drop your name in the meaningful conversations and say, oh, this person is good at this. Oh, you should reach out to that person. I think they would be perfect for that job. Because we're not talking just about Toastmasters. We're talking about the real world. Your third mentor is your co-pilot. You say, who's my co-pilot? Those people that are exactly in your same position. If we're talking about Toastmasters and you're a division director, it's your fellow division directors. When I found my co-pilots, I was a PQD. And district directors didn't understand me. They were busy being district directors. And club growth directors were just learning the ropes of the trio. But I found 4 amazing PQDs. And we've continued our journey together in leadership. And we understand our burdens, our challenges, but most of all, the madness it takes to continue doing what we love. You need your anchor. And your anchor is a very special person. It doesn't necessarily be someone that is within your either line of business or even a Toastmaster. It's just someone that you can hold on to when things get difficult. Last but not least, just as we give, we receive, and we get from our mentees those difficult lessons that only they can tell us because they've seen us in action. The cycle should never end. And when I look at this image, I laugh because I have very specific names in my mind. The first image would be me with my mentor or my mentor's mentor with her. Second one would be my mentor with me. And the last one is my mentee doing whatever he thinks he's being appropriate as a mentor to his future generation. But in different perspectives, there is always the wise mentor teaching the mentor, and then you and your mentor. I mean, you and your mentee, and the continuation of either the legacy or the bloodline. This is what my tree looks like. I've been blessed with 6 amazing mentors. I am missing one of my mentees in that picture, but those 2 are what held me and hold me solid. I would not be here if it hadn't been for all of them. And I don't know the kind of person I would be had it not been for all of them. So go out there, find a mentor, be a mentor. Learn from those that your mentors had the audacity to learn from, and challenge those that you are learning with, because you never know who will be your next lifeline, but most importantly, where you come from. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Violeta. Great presentation. As I said, she began at the club level, just like all of you, all of us, and she's gone on to do great things to serve Toastmasters and our mission. I hope she's inspired you to do what you do, whatever your next move is, it will be the right move. Through the encouragement of your fellow club officers and just anyone else you see at this weekend at the conference. I just know that big things are in store for all of you. Now, I had to join the meeting through my phone so that I could see who is online, and I do see a lot of good people out there. If I can find it. I remember. Let's see. I lost it. Anyway. Who did I see out there? I remember seeing Wendy Durfee out there, PJ Gloss. There was a lot of you out there without your cameras on. Come on, turn them on. This is a party. Who else do we see out there? Colleen McNeese, who has graciously entered so many of my speeches out there that I never would have done myself. Emmy Bauer, who else is out there? Tony Valles. Oh my gosh, there's a lot of you out there. I see Martha. I already said, oh, Hovey, I haven't seen you in a long time. Jeff Eisenman's out there, Jeff Marood, Karen, a lot of Karens, the good Karens. Is Karen Hewitt out there? Look at that. Tom Taboni decided to start his camera. Awesome. I have a Spy Master tip for you. But before I get to my Spy Master tip, Spy Master Ashley, how are we doing with the raffle?
Greetings, Spy Master. I'm over here waiting in the wings, fading into the shadows. Let me give a shout out. I saw one of my home club members, Ren, out there, as well as Karen. All right. Hello, agents. And our raffle is doing so well right now, but we really need your help and your aid for the mission. Feel free to click that Ticket Leap link in your top secret mission files. It will take you straight away to our raffle page, where one raffle ticket is $5. 5 raffle tickets, $20. We'll see you here tomorrow at that raffle wall.
All right.
Thanks, Spy Master.
What is my Spy Master?
Spy Master, your name is anything you're imagined.
What is your
Nathan
Spy
Tell-
Master name?
My name is Spy Master Yelsa. I think I've been
Yelsa.
very open about that personally, but I am a very secretive gal.
I was given the name Spy Master Storm Chaser or something like that.
Solis Storm Chaser.
I wanted to change to Spy Master MC Hammer Pants, but they won't let me do it.
What about MC Mic Drop?
MC Mic Drop. Bring to that.
I think, yeah, we got a good crowd reaction on that one. That might be the prevailing one.
Fellow Toastmasters, please find your link, figure out your Spy Master name, or just make one up, put it in the chat. Let's get competitive, see who comes up with the best Spy Master names. And the Spy Master tip that I want to give you was something that I learned back when I was in the service. The early bird gets the worm, and the worm this time is the raffle. There's a lot of raffle winnings out there, and the more you buy early, the more likely you are to win big. This is true. What else we got?
What else we have is agents, to reiterate my Spy Master's point, it is highly encouraged that you stay undercover for the remainder of the mission. It is imperative for the sanctity of the mission, as well as your success within it. So tomorrow, along with wearing your lanyards, in order to gain access to the mission, you must be wearing your lanyard at all times, as well as please use a spy name.
Excellent. Speaking of spies, I just saw a spy, Charlene, join us online. Thank you for turning on your camera. We appreciate it. Are you guys ready for another great presentation, or do you want me to babble on here forever? That's not good, yeah. Presentation, right? Let me see if I can get the next presenter's intro up there, if I have to read it from my phone.
I got it.
Don't worry, Keynote, we got you. You guys are in for a treat. Fellow Toastmasters, as you know, we all have a story to tell. Our next keynote speaker is an Emmy-nominated historian who earned his nomination for sharing Arizona history. His passion for uncovering the weird, the wonderful, and the obscure treasures from our past have earned him the name, the Hip Historian. He uses storytelling magic, found film footage, old photographs, ephemera, look that word up, and artifacts to bring our state's heritage to life in entertaining and educational presentations. He has developed an almost cult-like following for sharing his history through both virtual and in-person events. Presenting, Making History Hip, telling our stories. Please help me welcome the Hip Historian, Marshall Shore.
Thank you all so much. I hope I live up to that introduction. So, as you heard, my name is Marshall Shore. I'm called the Hip Historian, and I'll explain a little bit of how did I get here at this point with that name. I do a lot of different history. I mean, we'll talk a little about Arizona Happy Hour, which is a virtual happy hour that I've been doing now for over 3 years. Also, the Arizona Vintage Sign Coalition, which is one of my passions and got me into looking at Arizona history through new eyes, as well as the Arizona LGBT plus history project. So I do a lot of just kind of fun, wacky Arizona history. But how did I get here? So about 24 years ago, I was living and working in Brooklyn at a beautiful Carnegie Library. But you know, if you look at that photo, you'll notice that there's a bit of snow. And so that wind, that snow, that slush, that's what got me to think, you know, it's time for a change. And so I loaded everything I own into a big orange cube, a U-Haul. You know, they have their International World Headquarters right here in the Valley of the Sun. And so decided it was time to move to someplace sunny, that being Phoenix, Arizona. So soon after moving here, I was working in a beautiful 1950 library in South Phoenix that had this rich oral tradition of the community. And so I was learning about Arizona through its stories. And nothing has changed. I'm still learning and sharing Arizona stories. And then we moved into a house that when we first got it was beige on beige on beige on beige. I am happy to say now it is a beautiful 1956 ranch that is two-tone, seafoam and cantaloupe. There's what my kitchen looks like today. All that buttercream yellow tile, the matching yellow in the wall oven that works like a charm, as well as that stovetop. And you know, the goal is to keep the house to period, and love the fact that it has a lot of that original electronics that still work like a charm. Oh, and now it's not progressing. Oh, there we go. All right. So I always love giving a shout out to Phoenix New Times because they've named me Best Historian several years in a row, as well as Phoenix Magazine, which named me the Best Bespectacled Phoenix Celebrity because I do indeed like my eyewear. So how did I get the name the Hip Historian? So, you know, every February 14th, Arizona has a celebration for itself, for Centennial and for Statehood Day. And back in 2012, we had a whiz bang of a celebration across the state. And so they did events in front of the state capitol. And they gave me 15 minutes to talk about anything I wanted to. Now, my name is Marshall Shore. You may have heard of Marshall Trimble, who is the official state historian. And so sometimes people get us confused. And so at this point, the director of tourism was explaining me to someone and said, he is the Hip Historian. And I said, Karen, thank you so much. I am now stealing that. And so since statehood, that is my moniker. And I chose for my 15 minutes to talk about one of my most favorite events in Arizona's history. It was started by Charlotte Holt back in 1925, that is, and was based on Turn of Roses. It was a flower show, but it quickly grew. But it was called Mask of the Yellow Moon. It was based on a indigenous story about how the god of sun would give his rays to make the earth golden and warm. So it was always a springtime event. And it was held at the Elzevir Shriners Temple over by the state capitol. The building is still there, and the Monument Museum has moved out, but they're in the process of moving back in, bringing that space up to code, and being one of my favorite quirky museums in the Valley. From there, it moved to Montgomery Stadium, which was our first stadium in Arizona. And so they did a wide variety of events there. In fact, it had our very first bowl game. It was called the Salad Bowl, playing upon that history of Arizona and agriculture. And it was well attended, as well as Mask of the Yellow Moon, which was touted right up with Mardi Gras as something everyone in the country should go and see. Now, it ran. And so with the Salad Bowl, what would you expect? Why, none other than the queen of the Salad Bowl arriving in her very own salad bowl. And the Mask of the Yellow Moon ran from 1925 to 1955. At its height, had about 5,000 high school and college students performing on the field as well as off the field, making things run. It was woven through the curriculum of Phoenix Union high schools. And so you had debate club doing skits. You had multiple marching bands because of all the high schools involved. You also had dance, and lots of young ladies were on that stage dancing around in costumes designed by students, made in Hone Economics. And I was lucky enough to find 3 dresses that were worn in the late 30s. And so I was lucky enough to have 3 friends that would put those on, parade around the stage as we've talked about the history of the Mask of the Yellow Moon. And so that was my introduction as the hip historian to Arizona. And so that's the kind of thing I like to collect, are those funky, kind of quirky stories. And now we have a word from our sponsor. No sound? Okay. Okay, I guess there is no sound, so we're just going to go right on by that. But I wanted to show that because I like to have what I say edutainment. People are having so much fun, they don't realize they're learning. So that was a Muppet that I had made by myself that plays into Muppet history of Arizona. But that's a whole other topic and another show entirely. But you know, I've also done a lot of bingo, because it's fun to play bingo. It's very social, but in between games, you can spout out little bits of history. And so I was doing it across rooftops, across the valley, and having lots of fun. And so one of my first explorations into Arizona history went on a road trip down Van Buren through Tempe into Mesa's Main Street. And one of the signs I found was Bill Johnson's Big Apple. Now, have any of you ever been to a Bill Johnson's Big Apple before? They were a local chain, very popular. And so one of the things I loved about them was that shop on Van Buren. That sign, Bill Johnson was a master marketer. In fact, the sign cost as much as the building did, because he knew that you had to have a sign that was bigger, bolder, brighter than your neighbors to attract that business. And that's what made a lot of Arizona's highways interesting, because of all those hotels and motels along all those byways on Route 66, on Route 80, as you travel through so many highways and byways of Arizona. Now, Bill Johnson Big Apple, the family actually sold the chain, and this one on Van Buren was actually bought by Gateway Community College. And as the Vintage Sign Coalition, we were trying to save this sign on location. Sadly, that didn't happen. It now sits in Maricopa at a barbecue shop in the parking lot. It will never again be assembled like it was back in the 50s through the 2000s. One of the first events I did was an event called Picnic with a Fish. It was Scottsdale Public Art, and the city was getting ready to repair one of those canals. And so they had to move these fish. And so someone said, well, let's do a picnic with a fish to celebrate those white amur that are brought into to eat the algae that's in those canals and help keep them clean. And so as they were doing this, preparing for this event, we were going through, they got to me and they're like, okay, we're getting t-shirts or aprons. We've never seen you in a t-shirt. And they were like, what do you want? I was like, I want a suit coat. They're like, it'll be summer. I'm like, it'll be a lightweight cotton suit coat. And so the artist put together this great suit coat you can see in the one photo with a very Dr. Seuss fish on. And so I love whenever there's a water event because I have the perfect suit coat that I can wear for that event. And we recently did for the Orpheum's 95th anniversary, Arizona Unzipped, which was an educational burlesque show where I told stories about Arizona's history. And then they followed that with a number about Arizona history to kind of reinforce, but also to give a palate cleanser. So it wasn't just history, history, history. And I was just at an event the other night and a young woman came to me, she heard my voice and she was like, oh, you did that burlesque show. I actually learned stuff there, which I thought was really cool. And with the Orpheum, I love talking about the Orpheum because not only is it 95 years old, but when I first started doing tours, this was included on the tour because it was a haunted history tour. And so there's some energies that kind of hang out at the Orpheum still to this day, including a ghost cat that children usually see when they come in for a tour, but adults don't really see the cat. But the Orpheum is such an amazing theater. And, when we talk about architecture, Arcadia, probably the most famous house in all of Arcadia is the David Wright House. But, Arcadia has so many cool things. And a few months ago, someone asked me to do Arizona Cat Fest. And I love signing up for things I know nothing about. They said, let's talk about some cat history. Okay, I didn't know any. And so that was the fun thing of going down that rabbit hole and finding out that this house in Arcadia that at one point had a big B on the gate that sadly has been removed, but it was for Amanda Blake. Some of you might know her as Miss Kitty. She was in Gunsmoke, and she was a huge animal rights activist, and she had lots of animals on her Arcadia property, including her pet lion. And it said she took that lion to set one day, scared the heck out of everyone, and it started roaring every time Marshall Dillon opened his mouth on camera. And so they asked the lion to remove from set and never to come back. And so doing Arizona History Happy Hour, how do I work in those kind of fun facts like that, but in kind of a more conversational thing? I started doing trivia. Now, if you've been to bar trivia where just more people are worried about what's the answer, A, B, or C. So it's a multiple choice question. And we recently did for Trees Matter, for Earth Day, we did tree trivia. And so one of the questions was, what are the categories of magnificent trees? And so the optional answers, it then gave us a chance to talk about the 3 types of heritage trees, which you might be surprised to find out that there are some really interesting types of trees. So one of the questions that led into that was, what Disney film was filmed here in the Valley? Was it Cars, Noelle, Song of the South, or Living Desert? And, it's a trick answer because they've all been filmed here in Arizona. But the little known movie, well, some of you might know the movie Song of the South, which is if you go to a movie on Disney Plus, you won't find Song of the South. And it was originally going to be filmed. They tried to film in Atlanta, but they could not get the white staff to work with the black staff. And so they wound up somehow on a farm in Levine. And so it was along a canal. And so it may not look like Arizona, but this is Levine on the canal in the 40s. And so we've actually did a showing of this, an illegal showing of Song of the South, with a talk back from Dr. Lester from ASU, talking about the racial issues in the movie. And I wanted to show it because it was an Arizona movie, but I also wanted to make it very educational. And so there was a great talk back talking about some of the mixed messages of this movie. And so we're actually, I think we've been talking about maybe doing that again, which I think will be fun. And then another question, what is the oldest alligator juniper in the world? Where is it? It's either Wilcox, Vulture City, Flagstaff, or Prescott. And the oldest alligator juniper in the US is in Prescott. But it's also got an amazing story because you might remember a few years ago there was the Dulce fire up there. And when the firefighters were up there digging trenches to save homes, they drug a trench around this tree to save it. And so there is now a plaque designating this as a heritage tree, as well as the story of the firefighters saving it. This was, this I just discovered for tree trivia. Which fruit tree was impacted by the long walk? Was it A, peach, B, apple, C, mission fig, or D, pear? Several of them could be good answers, but the correct answer is the Navajo peach. So as the indigenous communities were being driven off their land to New Mexico, the US military was right behind them, burning these lush fields of Navajo peaches. Now, these peaches were so prized that when those folks got to New Mexico, they kept those seeds. And when they were then kind of forgotten and actually forced to come back, they still had those peaches. There is a young woman now who's going through Arizona with some of these original seeds. She's already located 10 small orchards that weren't burnt in that initial long walk burn. And so she's trying to reintroduce these peaches to northern Arizona, which I think is really cool, bringing that back into people's diet. It was a peach that's like the size of a plum, but supposed to be much more intense in flavor. And so I look forward to getting myself up north and having one of those Navajo peaches. And when we talk about agriculture, Navajo peach, one of the 5 C's of Arizona is citrus. So we had lots of orange trees around. We also have palm trees. And there is a special variety that grows in Arcadia called the Black Mission fig. The Black Mission date. And the only place on the planet they grow is a hybrid up in Arcadia. And they have been having issues between electrical wires and trees and the mixing of the two. And so I know the community is very much fighting to keep those Black Sphinx dates around. Oh, all this talk about food has made me hungry. I don't know about you, but Arizona we have a state neckwear, we have a state bird, we've got a state cactus, we've got a state everything. Well, for Centennial, there was a group that said, we should have a state food. And they thought, what about the chimichanga? And that was a point where we had Macayo's restaurants around, and they were like, it should be the state food because we invented it. But then, this little restaurant in Tucson stepped up and said, excuse me, we've been around longer than you are. And actually, we have an aunt who created the chimichanga at El Charro. But, sometimes people don't get their stories right. And it actually goes back further than that to when railroad tracks were being laid in Arizona. And so you had Chinese men moving here to lay tracks. They were marrying into Hispanic families. And they saw a burrito, which looks an awful lot like an egg roll. And what do you do with an egg roll? You fry it. And that's just what they did, creating the chimichanga long before either of those restaurants existed. And you might notice my look is kind of derivative of Colonel Sanders. In fact, my logo is actually, I had a friend who slapped my head on top of Colonel Sanders as where he's wearing a string tie. And so you might wonder, well, what does Colonel Sanders have to do with Arizona? Well, there was a Utah-based chain that was run by two brothers. There was one brother in Salt Lake. There was another brother here, and they were the Harmons. And so Harmons had their chicken restaurant. Now, they were the first ones to work with the Colonel outside of Kentucky to create his chicken. And so initially they were going to call it Utah Fried Chicken. Doesn't that sound bland and pasty? They thought the same thing. And they thought, the Colonel's from Kentucky. Why don't we call it Kentucky Fried Chicken? And it was so popular on the menu that there are no more Harmon's restaurants left, but there are plenty of KFCs or Kentucky Fried Chicken still around. And McDonald's, everyone says, oh, McDonald's came from California. That is indeed true. But there was Mr. Fox, who in the 50s went to go visit California and stopped at a McDonald's. And he bought the very first franchise for McDonald's. It was right off Central near Indian School. And so he had the first McDonald's franchise. It was the first iconic building with those golden arches. And when the brothers got here, they were shocked to see it was called McDonald's and not Fox's. And he said, when I bought the franchise, I bought name and everything. And so because of our McDonald's, we now have McDonald's throughout the country. So as we come to kind of the end of our talk a little bit, I do a lot of work, as you can tell, with dead people. So when I first started doing tours, I started because I wound up at the Pioneer Military Memorial Park down near the Capitol, which is a historic cemetery, and where the last person was buried in 1914. And when you go visit, you see former mayors of Phoenix. You see some ladies of the evening. You see Minnie Powers, who was a madam. And off in the corner, you see Jacob Waltz. Now, you might know that name as he was the Lost Dutchman, probably one of the most told stories about Arizona and that gold that he found and would keep accessing. And people are still out in Superstition Mountains trying to find his gold. Well, his gold may be lost, but he is buried right here at the Pioneer Cemetery. And everyone I talked to didn't seem to know anything about this cemetery. And I was like, well, how do we get a busload of people to the cemetery? And I was like, what if we did a tour where the last stop was the cemetery and we talked about some of the folks that were buried there? I was like, what would that look like? So I wound up renting a big yellow school bus and starting off at the Clarendon Hotel, where I used to work, and had quite a bit of history about. When we talk about the Clarendon Hotel, the name Don Bowles, for some of you, might ring some bells. He was a reporter for the Arizona Republic, and he was researching horse racing, mafia, and land scams. And he went to that hotel for a meeting that didn't happen. As he was backing his car up, it blew up. He survived for another 11 days, but that action caused journalists from all over the country to come to Phoenix, continuing that work that he had started. And so we started with that story and some other stories and driving around talking about different buildings, stories. Maybe they were haunted, maybe they just had a cool story. And so that's how we started really creating those first haunted history tours, all because I wanted to get people to be more aware of this cemetery. That was over a decade ago. And now we're doing walking tours because of COVID, but it's still a different way to talk about our history. And I flipped these slides. And so back to McDonald's. So first franchise for McDonald's here. You know, also the first drive-through McDonald's was in Arizona, and that was Sierra Vista. And so Sierra Vista was a military town. And so the gentlemen could not get out of their cars in their military garb in public. So nobody was going to McDonald's. And so the owner decided, I'm just pretty much going to cut a hole in the door and let people order through the window. And that's what they did. After this, McDonald's came up with the idea of a drive-through, and now we all know where that has led. Lots of drive-throughs across the country. Now, when I talk about cemeteries, I work with folks that do a lot of different project cemeteries. And one of the most fascinating stories was I had a friend, she came up just like, I was working in Greenwood Cemetery and came across the name Nikolai de Raylan. And I was like, I don't know his story. And she's like, look it up. You'll find it fascinating. And so I did. So Nikolai was born in Russia. And he was from a very affluent family. And so he came to Chicago, got himself a cushy government job, opened a law firm, and got himself 2 wives and 1 divorce. After that, he contracted tuberculosis. So, in the early 1900s, it was not unusual for people to come here to Arizona for not just our clean air, but our dry air. And so he came here exactly for that reason. And he started feeling better, but that was only a blip on his radar. He lasted for a few months and then passed away. But as they were readying Nikolai for burial, they discovered that Nikolai was born a woman. And so it went front page above the fold from Bisbee to Australia. People were talking all about Nikolai de Raylan. And how did people not know? How did people know? There was all this debate going on. It got to the point where at one point, his wife actually kept saying, my husband was a man, and that can't be my husband. So they exhumed the body to see if it indeed was Nikolai, and it was. We're assuming that with his money, he was hoping to be able to get some of that money. But that did not happen. And so when I found out about this story, I found out that he was buried in Greenwood Cemetery without a headstone. And so during COVID, we actually were able to raise funds and able to give Nikolai a headstone. Now, he passed away in 1906, the same year that Greenwood Cemetery opened. And so the headstone that we heard Nikolai de Raylan says, to be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to make you something else is the greatest accomplishment. Ralph Waldo Emerson. So it's period correct, as well as being very true to who he was. So he had an arrangement with his wife that she was the only one that could ready him for burial because he did not want that secret to get out. And she didn't get here in time. They started before that. And so that revealed his secret. And so through doing this, it was interesting because we wound up doing a bit for the Arizona Republic, which got us USA Today. And I actually found a guy who has written a book about Nikolai. It's all in Russian. But just earlier this week, I got an edition emailed to me of the English version of Nikolai's story. But even more so with Nikolai, what I think is fascinating is the fact that I've had so many people come up to me and say, my parents didn't believe I was living my authentic self because they thought it was a fad. They said, but finding out about Nikolai from 1906, that he was leading an authentic life back then, gave them context that it wasn't just a trend. And so through doing this whole process, we actually did a project with Cronkite School of Journalism. And the story about Nikolai and how we got him a headstone won a student Emmy. which I think is really cool that we were able to tell that story. And I've actually had people who have tracked down his headstone and taking photos with it and sent it to me, because I think it's so incredible that we just kind of keep sharing that story. So my question to all of you, when I got into this, I didn't choose to accept this mission, but I found my passion. And I love telling stories, unearthing quirky tidbits about Arizona that I don't think didn't necessarily make headlines, but I think really create a whole fabric of Arizona. And not that Arizona is truly that unique with history, but we've had so many people who have come here and changed the world from right here in Arizona. And I love being able to share that. And that's been the fun of being able to do this, working with Arizona History Hour, which started during COVID. I found myself sitting in my home all alone. And you might have guessed I like to talk. And usually when you talk to people, they talk back to you. But when you're in your house by yourself, no one's chatting. And so I thought, well, let me go online and see what we can do. And so I just started calling up some friends saying, hey, I got this idea. Do you want to be a guest on Happy Hour? And so I love that now we have 3 years of weekly episodes on YouTube that have been organized. We've had folks from Superior, the town. We have had folks from the Arizona Historical Society. I love being able to bring on that diversity and talking about Arizona in very different ways. And I think that's what really, for me, brings my passion into it, is it really lets me connect with my curiosity and things that I know nothing about, but bringing that love of information from being a librarian and doing all kinds of fun things with that. And so loving that edutainment that I try to bring to so many folks. And through COVID, I had people literally saying that this was the one bright spot in the week. We've now gone from weekly to now in kind of this post-COVID life, if that's what we want to call it. It's now going on monthly, but we're also trying to do more in-person events. So like we just did a free tour of the Martin Auto Museum out in Glendale. He has 170 plus cars that you can go walk through. You can even get in some of them. So we had a bunch of 7, 8-year-olds that were thrilled to be able to sit in a Ferrari and get their photo taken. And so just trying to connect people to Arizona in weird, quirky ways through bingo, burlesque, trivia. I mean, this weekend, I'm like right now, I'm actually sitting at the Hotel Valley Ho because we are at Tiki Oasis number 5. It is 4 days of celebration of Polynesian kitsch. Hence why I'm wearing the really loud jacket. Not that I wouldn't wear it other times, which I do, but I'm now surrounded by a bunch of folks doing the exact same thing. So I guess now, do we want to open it up for questions? I know I saw something that said there were some chats that I didn't click on to see. Oh, there we go. There's my chat window. Let's see what's going on. Oh, people are talking about their names. Electric Serpent. Secret Mommy. Maybe not so secret. So these are a lot of fun. Wow. Oh, and be sure and purchase your raffle tickets. Very good. So with Disney, you're right. They no longer sell Song of the South. They just got rid of Splash Mountain, which was the last vestige of Song of the South in Disney. But it was funny when we did the talk back with Dr. Lester. He does a lot of work with racism and things, and so that's why I said, Dr. Lester, I really want you to be a part of this to be able to talk about that. And when he first agreed, he was like, I've never seen the movie. I've only read about the movie. When we were done with the movie, he was like, I never need to see this movie again. But then about 3 months later, he was like, can you get me a copy of that movie? Because there are teaching moments. And I was like, of course. And so, when Facebook is like, hey, this had been happened 3 years ago, I sent him a note and said, hey, we did that 3 years ago. He was like, I think it's time to redo that. So right now I'll be looking for another place to do that because we can't do it. We can't advertise because there's no way we can get the rights from Disney to do that. So it should be it was a lot of interesting conversation. And that's what I really appreciated was everyone watching a movie and then having this discourse afterwards that brought new understanding to, I think, everyone in the room. I mean, even Dr. Lester we had one young, oh my gosh, one young woman said, when that movie came out, she had classmates of hers calling her tar baby, which I had never even thought of that as a backlash for the movie. But hopefully we can do that again. But with that, we don't know how he wound up in Levine. He was starting to film in Atlanta and suddenly in Levine, but there is a group called First Families. And so in order to be a member, you got to prove your family heritage back to pre-1912. And so I did a presentation and I talked about Song of the South, and a woman's like, when that steer runs across the field, my brother is on the other side of that cow pushing to make sure it goes. And so I love trying to find those little flashes that just make it a little bit more real. And so, right, Don Bowles was executed by the mafia. There's various reasons as to why. And so it's still unsolved. The car that he was blown up in was shipped off a while ago to the museum off in DC. It's now, that museum has since closed, and the process now of trying to get that car back to Arizona. And there's been talk about where should it go. And so I don't know. Last I heard, it was actually the police museum, which is downtown in the old jail/county courthouse. So that should be interesting. Oh, I love that you did Sierra Vista, that you used to live there and you saw sign about the very first drive-through. Indeed. So, so someone's asking about the carnation. I moved here after that was long gone. I've heard lots of stories about the carnation. You've also got things like the Japanese flower garden. So when I moved here, I was working in a library in South Phoenix. Now, coming from New York, having a garden wasn't that unusual. I moved to South Phoenix and there was this lush green garden in the middle of summer. And come to find out, all the folks that were tending those plots behind the library had worked in those Japanese flower gardens that used to be on Baseline. And so I have a connection to those flower gardens, and actually Kathy Nakagawa now has her dad's floral shop still open as a tribute to the community that those Japanese flower gardens were really there because after the internment camps, after Pearl Harbor, they couldn't own land. And so they released the worst land and they turned it into these flourishing flower gardens that became a point of pride for the city of Phoenix and show up in many postcards, Arizona highways, and many memories about those flower gardens. And so I think it's great that Kathy has that facility open. Oh, cool. And I see someone just subscribed to my YouTube channel, so they can see some of those. Let's see. Oh, and Martha Sorry to be so late to the game about you raising your hand. I don't do you have a question? Do you want to unmute yourself?
Yes. Are you able to hear
Okay,
me?
I can.
Thank you so much. You brought so much fun to our conference. Not often. I mean, we hear a lot of speeches of different types, especially speeches with humor. You made it fun. I love it. How do we book you? I know you have a YouTube channel. How do we get you in a regular setting? Or do we come to your set?
So actually, so what's really cool is I actually do programs through Arizona Humanities, and they have a program that people can book through. Like over in June, July, I'm doing programs across Maricopa County on a wide variety of topics. I
Okay.
think so you can book through them, and so that's a great way. I've done corporate gigs. I did a bit for MasterCard. They were here a few months ago, and they had folks from all over the planet, and they were literally here for a week. And most of these folks were never would. This is the first time to the U.S. and might not be coming back. So we did kind of a little armchair tour of Arizona and things that if they're sticking around, things they should see. So I can do all kinds of fun stuff.
Well, someone put that in the chat on how we could book you or how we could see you in other engagements. You were so much fun. You added a touch that I've not witnessed in Arizona. I love comedy shows, but what you brought was historic. And I want to add something to what you've said. I believe that history is rich everywhere. And I think we do ourselves such a disservice when we don't talk about the history or even just mention it in something that we do. You have a really nice platform. And the way you developed this platform, I think a lot of people did that during the COVID time because guess what?
Mhm.
As you said, there was nothing else to do. Thank you for coming today. And also remember the African Americans and the history that is going in Arizona. And if you could put that on your docket, it would be so greatly appreciated.
So I mean, so we have Juneteenth coming up.
Yes.
And so I've actually been working with Carver High School in South Phoenix. They're going to be doing a Juneteenth. Theirs is Saturday, the 15th during the day. Arizona Heritage Center in Papago Park is going to be on the 16th. And that's Todd, and he's doing an amazing program.
All right.
City of Scottsdale, I think theirs is going to be the 15th, but more late afternoon.
Sure.
And so they're all going to be different but amazing programs. So, I mean, one of the things, so I grew up in a small farm town, Indiana, 25 people. Everyone in town looked like me. That was pretty boring. So as soon as I could, I got myself to New York, where I was working as a librarian at New York Public Library, Brooklyn Public Library. So I got to travel around the boroughs, visiting communities that most even New Yorkers don't get a chance to go into. And so moving to Phoenix, I really relish those moments where we can talk about the diversity. I mean, in fact, this weekend you have 19th Avenue and Camelback. They are doing a night market under the brand new moniker for that neighborhood of the International District.
Yes.
And I love that. I mean, I live walking distance from that street corner, so I look forward to the range of diversity that's going to bring. I mean, there's a great Ethiopian place there. You've got Middle Eastern, there's Vietnamese. I mean, I love my community and I look forward to embracing diversity even more.
Yes. Thank you so much. You were fabulous.
Thank you.
Fabulous.
Let's see. Were there any more? Let's see. How do I get to chats? Were there any more chats? Oh, there we go. So yeah, in case you can't tell, I am quite passionate about sharing that information, and really my love of community really tries to come through, because I love there are so many communities in Arizona and so many great places to go visit, so many little road trips that you can do in a day. And so thank you all so much for letting me come on, and I will see you tomorrow as well in person.
You get a minute? Marshall, can you hear me?
I can.
Awesome. Thank you, Marshall. I saw the chat blowing up the entire time. Fellow Toastmasters, when we're online, the chat is a way to communicate. Make sure you blow it up. Let Marshall know how well he did. Let Violetta know how well she did. And I don't know if you saw her in the room, but Carrie Verrocchio was in there. She is one of our keynotes for tomorrow. Tell them how well they did. Invite them to your club. You never know, they might show up. All right. No pressure, Marshall, no pressure.
No worries. It's all good.
All right, and then don't forget to turn on your camera. I see Cheryl there, I see Karen Hebda, who else is there? Mike Becko, I know you're there from my home club, always bothering me when I'm online, not showing his face. Betty Covington is showing her face. DJ Reed, my favorite VPE and former trio member, awesome. Who else do we have here? Wendy Durfee, I saw her. I don't know why David Hopper's not online. Stephanie D'Angelo's there. Who else is there? Jeff Maru Prince. Awesome. Glad to see your faces. Who else do you see, Ashley? I thought I saw
Pauline, we got Emmy.
Deanne Drotz there earlier. I thought I saw the Swearingens.
Really?
Who else was in there? There you go, Mike. Thank
Mike
you.
Greco. There, I see him.
Who else do we have? Come on, guys. I can't see you. It's like a one-way camera.
Maybe they're all undercover.
Make some noise, shake the computer, do whatever you have to do. Put your spy name in the chat. Paul Bartel's there. Put your spy name in the chat. I saw a lot of cool names. There was a snake in there. Who else do we have? Somebody's driving, is that right?
That day, there was
David, are you driving here?
Angelica. Same.
David, I got a martini for you waiting. Awesome. All right, guys. Hopefully this hasn't been too painful for you. Hopefully you're having a good time. You're learning a lot. Now, I know that Toastmasters, especially the distinguished ones, have to speak, right? Coming up next, some roundtables for us to discuss what's going on in the district. Will be led by our Chief Spy Master herself. Is it Ashley? No, it's not Ashley. What's your Spy Master name?
Yelsa.
Yelsa.
Why, it's Ashley backwards. The H is silent.
Awesome. Are we ready for that? Raise your hand, put a palm up on the online, whatever it is, if you bought a ticket already.
Fantastic.
Raise two if you bought me one. Awesome. Look at that.
Look at that.
It looks like the Zoom master wants to assign you to a breakout.
That is
You are
correct.
free, right? Tell them.
I'm gonna tell them what, Spy Master. Tonight, our mission continues with some roundtable mission briefings, as we call them. These are facilitated discussions by some of our district's top operatives. These are DTMs, advanced Toastmasters, as well as leaders in our community, as well as some of our keynote speakers you've heard tonight. They provide valuable insights, as well as provide you a forum in which you can share your stories and experiences with one another. So hopefully this will engage and inspire you. We will take about 5 minutes right now. Please find your breakout room, and the topics as well as our presenters are all located in your top secret D3 mission files. So be sure to access that link. Take a look and find a breakout room. We will begin those shortly.
What if they're having trouble finding a room?
What if you're having trouble finding a room? Zoom Master will be able to help you out and be on your way. Is that
Just
it?
type your table number in the chat. We will send you there.
Thank you, Zoom Master. Okay, 5 minutes. We'll begin. Cheers.
Hello?
Yes, Colleen,
Yes, ma'am.
do you need help to go to your room?
I do. I don't understand. Somebody took me off mute.
I will send you to the breakout room.
Thank you.
Which breakout room? What are the numbers and what are they? Where do I find that?
Let me share the screen just 1 second.
I'm looking, but I'm not finding them. Thank you.
So can you see it on the screen now? We have 6 tables.
Yes.
Table name, presenter. So choose your room.
How
do
to
we
select the room?
Go to the Zoom control panel. You will see breakout room. Then click on that, you will see the options. Scroll down.
So in the email or in my Zoom?
Yes, in your Zoom control panel.
Did we get an email with like what table we were at?
So we're just picking the one that we want to be in, correct? We're not assigned them.
No, you are not assigning them. Just pick the
Right.
one you want to join.
Okay.
Thank you.
Be clear, it's not a control panel, it's, you click on the breakout rooms icon.
Can somebody send me to breakout room number 1?
And who is that?
Wendy Durfee, sorry. Oh, Ariel Sapphire.
Wendy Durfee.
Yes.
Okay, got it. If you cannot find your breakout room, simply type table 1, 2, 3, or 5 in the chat, then we will send you there.
I see Stephanie.
Welcome, welcome while you're walking in or whatever Zoom does. Ashley? 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 Shin, can you find Ashley? Ashley,
I don't know where she is.
or
Someone just,
Yelsa, sorry, Agent Yelsa?
Hey, you can't be in here. I said get out.
I think it's time to conclude our mission for the evening, but before I officially fade into the shadows, before our covert operation tomorrow, it is my pleasure to introduce the trio. First of whom is our club growth director, Tom Taboni. DTM, please help me welcome him. Apologies for being a little out of breath.
No problem. Thank you, Spy Master Yelsa. It's a pleasure having you tonight, hosting our ceremonies along with Spot Master McHammer, whatever his name is. First and foremost, thank you all for coming out for the virtual toast conference tonight. We truly appreciate having you. Take this information you got from our roundtables and turn it back into your clubs. Let them all know all the information you earned. Take the information you received in Violeta's keynote as well as Marshall's, share all that information and make it very well fulfilled. Just a couple reminders, you can still buy raffle tickets tonight and tomorrow on site as well. And doors don't open till 8 a.m. tomorrow. So we will see you all tomorrow. We're looking forward to it. I now turn this back to our program quality director, district director-elect, Sarah Mayer.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for your attendance tonight, and thank you to our speakers, our conference team for putting this all together. We really appreciate it. And thank you to our MC, whatever his name is, I don't know. He's probably going to change it 10 times, and to, of course, Ashley, which is, what's her name now? Yelsa. Yelsa, we really appreciate it. Remember, tomorrow you need to have a ticket to attend. If you're coming in person, 8 a.m., we will see you for your mission check-in. If you're coming virtually, also 8 a.m., we'll open the room. And the program kicks off at 8:30 with our dignitary parade, both virtually and in person. We're very excited about that. And then, of course, we have a very exciting Hall of Fame lunch where we will honor our members. We will honor our Communications and Leadership Award winner, and then we will close with the final mission, which is our speech contest. And now I'm going to kick it over to District Director Steve Feld, who has been slipping martinis, shaken, not stirred, all night. Steve?
It's pretty sad that I'm serving up all the drinks, and yet, do I get one? No. Someone has to still be the responsible one here, and we're still trying to figure out who that is in this room. I just want to say thank you all for coming out tonight, getting a little taste of what's in store for you tomorrow. I'm personally excited to hear the contest. That's going to be the cap of the whole conference. And being in person, there's just nothing like it with the networking and getting to know, sharing the knowledge with your fellow Toastmasters. And I know they just went on a covert mission regarding those raffle prizes. Well, I got to have a sneak peek earlier than they did today and avoided the gun shooting to get me out of the room, but I gotta say, unbelievable raffle prizes. Just wait till they show some pictures of those. You definitely want to be here, be in person, be there, but don't forget, you need a ticket to be in person. We're looking forward to a great conference. The conference team is doing a phenomenal job. We're looking forward to seeing you all tomorrow here at Great Wolf Lodge for the District 3 conference. Now back to you, Mr. Spy Master, whatever your DJ Pants, Hammer.
For tonight, it was MC Hammer Pants. Get it right, guys.
MC Hammer Pants.
Fellow Toastmasters, I hope you had a great evening. Please put in the chat if you're going to be joining me live tomorrow in person. And if you're not, also put in the chat, see who gets the bigger roar, the bigger wave. The chat drives the energy with these online meetings. Madam Conference Chair, do we have any parting words for our members?
My parting words, operatives. Thank you, Spy Master. 00 Toast is an homage to our centennial anniversary here in Toastmasters International. And a quote I often like to reference is, "When we seek, we will be found." And I believe that we are an organization of very devoted seekers. And to that point, I hope you glean from our mission tomorrow, from our wonderful operatives, as well as our agents and handlers alike. You will take something home with you, something new, whether it's a new idea, a new way of doing things, or perhaps it's just an affirmation that you are exactly where you need to be. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow, operatives. We will see you here at the Rendezvous Point, virtually or in person at 8 a.m. sharp.